Hello everyone and welcome to Power Hour. Today's topic is the new modern out-of-the-box approvals in lists, SharePoint lists, Microsoft lists. I'm Laura Rogers and this is Joelle Jobson in the window. And here is the stinger. All right, again, this is Power Hour. We work at a company called IW Mentor. That is our online training and consulting company. We have online courses and all these products that we talk about in Power Hour. And Power Hour is a show we've been doing Wednesdays at 11 Central for about 11 years. And it's all, geared towards business users, power users. Try not to do anything super technical. We are not programmers, right, Joelle? We just, we do everything we can out of the box in SharePoint. And so today we're talking about SharePoint lists, which are also the exact same thing as Microsoft lists. So I usually just call them SharePoint lists, but if you're new to this, it's all the same thing. So I'll go ahead and so what I'm going to do is we have, wherever you're watching this, we have a link that you can click to fill out a form to request to join. So we have, when you request to join, is to join in Teams. So that way you can chat with us live. You're all just in there as external users. And then also you can subscribe to us on YouTube. Wonder Laura is my channel. And we also have a newsletter too. There's another link that you can subscribe to the newsletter to get notified about Power Hour because everybody votes on the topic the day before. So the topic you all voted for today is the modern out-of-the-box approvals. All right, let me go ahead and get my screen sharing on and move this out. Okay, so now here is, first of all, Teams. Let me put Teams here so you can see we are in, when you get invited, you're in Teams, you're in a Power Hour team, general channel, and then this is where the tabs are. Here's today's tab 925, and then you can use the little chat bubble to pull out this little panel where we're all chatting, and it's fun because it's live and you never know what's going to happen, and we kind of have discussions and questions and things in the chat as we go. So, no further ado, you all have access to this site. This is our Power Hour SharePoint site that is a part of this team that you all get invited to. So inherently you have access to be able to participate in these things, in these demos, and be able to go into this list and do stuff and try it out. So I'm going to copy that link into the chat. And that way, if y'all want to just go to this list or just be able to get to any of the lists in here, that's how you'll be able to do it. Okay, so here is, here's my expense tracker list. So what I'm going to do, this is just one of those out-of-the-box list templates. Now, what we had a Power Hour about a year or two ago when they first rolled out some approvals that were built into a couple of lists. And you had to go create and as you were creating a new list and going through that new list wizard, you had to choose those specific templates that had built-in approvals. Well, now those approvals are built into all lists, not just new ones and not just those specific templates. So in this example, I'm going to use the expense tracker list to show you where it is and what it does. So when I go to my list, and this doesn't work on libraries. Libraries don't have this. So I go to Automate and choose Configure Approvals. So I'll just show you, I'll just go to a library. And in a library, you can see that you don't have Configure Approvals in a library. So this is just for lists, at least for now. So I can go to Automate and choose Configure Approvals. And then I just basically just turn it on. I enable approvals. So when I enable approvals, let me show you before I do this. Let me show you, let's go look at the list settings. And if usually you have a list, so you have require content approvals for submitted items, this has been in here for 20 years. This is not a new setting, but I want you to notice that when you go to this list, you go to your list and you configure approvals and turn it on, click apply, and then you'll notice that when you go to the list settings and go to the versioning settings, it is not there anymore. The content approval is not there anymore. So it's trying to kind of force you to just use one or the other in a way. So in my expense tracker, now I have this new column that says approval status. So here's what it does. I'll just go click on approval status, and by default, it puts the title of whatever item that you click on as the name of the approval, but you can change it, or you can make this approval request say whatever you'd like. And you can invite external, internal people. I'll just put Joelle on here. So I'm in here as an internal person, and she's in here as an external person. And your other option is to say, do you want them all to have to approve it? Request a response from all? Or is it okay if just somebody approves it? Just one person approves it, and then it's considered approved. So that's your option. And then in the details, this is what it's going to say in the message that they get. Please approve. This is a test. All right. So now it says creating approval request down here. It's very slick. And then it's going to take a few seconds. And then now it says requested. And notice, since I'm one of the approvers, I get the little pop-up and that's in Teams. So this is really important to note. This notification you're going to get is only in Teams. So I can go to my activity here and I can see Laura Rogers sent you a request. And so here's the expense request here. And it looks like Joelle approved it because I just got a notification saying final status approved. So she beat me to it. So I don't have to do anything. So let's go see what happened here. So I'll refresh my... Sometimes it takes a few seconds when it says requested, and it takes a few seconds after it's been approved for it to catch up here. But I click on it, and it actually has the updated details here. So Laura did no response. I didn't do an approval. Joelle went ahead and approved it, and since I only had it so that one person could just approve, and then it was considered approved, then I don't have to worry about it. So now let me go just refresh my list again and see. Now I can see it's approved and I can see the details. Now let's go ahead and reject one. I'll just put myself on here and I'll just put to test rejection and then submit that. And of course I'm going to get the little pop-ups. And so I can click on the pop-up and do this in Teams again, and it does not have an email. It is just a Teams pop-up. So that might be a deal breaker for you if everybody's not in Teams all the time. So I click requested, so I don't have to go to the Teams message. If I'm the approver, I can just click on the thing itself and I can just do the approval right here. Or this one I'm going to reject. And I'll just say reject. And now it says rejected. So this updates a lot faster if you're right there in the list, doing it live instead of waiting over to refresh this and you're doing it over in Teams. Does that make sense? So this one's been approved. Notice when I click on it, it just is approved and that's all there is to it. There's no other buttons here. But if it gets rejected, I can choose resubmit request. Unfortunately, if it gets approved, there is not a button to resubmit the request. So that's kind of odd. Let me go back over to the Teams chat real quick. Where did that go? Okay. Does the approval trail remain in history or disappear like in an on-prem site? Let's go look at that. So let's go look at the version history. Now this is really interesting. Okay, so it says approver Laura Rogers and 9:25, 11:08 a.m. So when I clicked approve, I clicked reject, but it put approver as Laura Rogers, and it doesn't have metadata about the approval really here except for my name. And then this one up here that I approved, version history, Now this is a very weird. So let me show you what it had. Let me do a new one. This is new because the version history is very odd with this thing. And so I kind of wanted to show you just so you'll know. So I just created a new one that says this is new. I can see in the version history like what I did. And then in the version history, I'll just go like change something. I'll, make a change here, make a change here. And then now it says in the version history, okay, so 11:10 a.m. I created it and then I changed these two fields. But then if what I was trying to do was I was trying to look at the version history to see what kind of what data was going to be there. That's it. So that's a great question. But I'm going to show you in a second that there is more data. It's just in columns, and it's like you can do a flow too to get to more of this data. So we'll get to that too. So then when it's still 11:10, I was trying to wait like one more minute before I do it so that it's not going to have the exact same time for all three things that I do. So you'll be able to tell. Okay, so it's 11:11 now. All right, so then where's the one that I just, okay, this is new one. So it says this is new. I'll just put myself on here again. And then it says requested, and I got my little pop-ups, but watch this. So I'll go look at my version history and look at that. So that second change that I made at 11:10, remember both of these said 11:10, 11:10. It took the things that I changed and put them as the 11:11 change and didn't mention anything about the approval. So, and I noticed that pattern in a few other things when I was testing this a few minutes ago. So that's very odd, just something to notice. And then I'll go ahead and approve it, and it'll probably record my name. I'll put approve. Now it says approved. I keep getting all these pop-ups. And version history is 11:12. Now it's put the same two changes. So really odd. Okay, so what I want to show you when you're digging into the actual data is that it has some other columns that you can add that are related to this. So it has approver. Let me double just all of these responses, approval creator. I just want to see the modified date too. And so it's like approver. I think this might be from something else. I'm going to go double check that. But approvers, responses, and approval creator are the ones that are part of this modern approval. Yeah, that is very odd. So this new one that I just did like brand new, that it was a new item, it doesn't have anything in the approver column. So I think that this was just something else that was just part of this list template that was just a person column called approver. So, and again, that is pretty confusing. I'm going to go ahead and just hide that one since it is actually not related to what we're doing with this new approval thing. So it's got approvers, and that's one or more people that I sent it to, like the one that I'm seeing here. And then responses is just Joelle because she's the one that responded to it. And then approval creator is me because I'm the one that actually kicked off the approval. So that's the person who's going to trigger the approval. If the item changes, does the approval process start over? I don't think so, but let me double check that. I'll go edit this is new one again. This is changed. So now I'm going to change a couple of things in it just to be sure. Oh, there we go. Look at that. I doubted it. And now look at that. Okay, applying changes will cancel your request. So I'm going to go up. So that's good to know. This item has been submitted for approval and was either approved or rejected. Editing this item will reset the request, and you'll need to resubmit to ensure the approver sees the updated information. So that is how you reset them. So if I go through here and edit all these, I'm going to get the same error or notification message, and they're all going to go back. So earlier when I was saying like for a rejected one, you could click resubmit, but for an approved one, there wasn't like a resubmit. So if it's approved and it gets changed, then you do have to resubmit. So that's good. That makes sense. Okay, Lanita says, can you group the requests if you say you have 2 approvers and they approve once per week? Can you also include any attachments? Include any attachments in what? Let me see. Let me try and see if I can group it. Well, that one I already got rid of. So let me go ahead and do another one with 2 approvers, Joelle, and I'll let you do the same thing you did last time. So we'll have both of our names on there. So this one, I'll put don't require request from all approvers on this one that says test expense 1, only 1 approver is what I'm going to call it. Only 1 person has to do something. And then this other one, I'm going to say test both approvers approve. And I'll put both of us in here. And then we'll look, just like you're asking, we'll look at that. So by default, it does toggle this to yes, that everyone has to approve. And go. So this is only in Teams. So I'm going to show you in a second how you can build a flow that will be triggered off of this if you want to also have it send an email to them. So that is possible. This is metadata that you should be able to use in a flow. So now I've, one of those, Joelle, I guess, go ahead and, so Joelle approved that one. And now, and then we both have to approve, I think it's this one, pending response from Laura Rogers. So yes, there's my response. So now we both approved it, and then it's considered approved. All right, so then I wonder what, if one person rejects it, it's going to be considered rejected even if you send it to multiple people. Okay, so let's see if it will let me. Yeah, you can't group by. Anytime, to answer your question, Anita, anytime you have a column that allows multiple selections, like multiple people or multiple like lookup items, it's not going to let you group by that column. So the answer to that one is no. And then Anita says, add the attachment to the initial Teams notification to the approver. The Teams notification does have a link to the item. So sent you a request. So you would click here to go to the item. So it puts that is the thing to approve. So when you click on it, if there was an attachment, it would be here. So, but it's not gonna, it's in the approval request, it's not going to have the link to the item and have a link to the attachments on the item. Does that make sense? So the item is the attachment. Yeah. All right, so now that you've seen just kind of the basics of how it works and the fact that it has just some built-in columns, let me go look to see if you would think you would have a column letting you know what the comments were, but they're just right here in the approval activity. So here, like, here's my comment right here, but it doesn't have a column. Let me double check that again. It doesn't have like an approval comments column. Okay, so let's go look at the flow. So this is one that I just tested a second ago. I'll start over and show you what it looks like. All right, so I'm gonna do, this is what it looks like if you, now here's what the goal is. If you don't just want to have a Teams notification, you want to also have an email notification. Or if you want to have a notification specifically after the approval is done, that's an email. Now, after it's done, you notice that I did get in Teams, I did get notifications letting me know it was approved, and I got pop-ups along the way letting me know what was going on. But if you want to have that metadata in an email, or even to like do something where you, like send them an email with all the details, then you can do that. Now, the problem is if you wanted to go right back to the list with the flow, then you'd be modifying the list again, and then it would reset itself. But we can double check that. All right, so I'm going to do a new automated cloud flow. I always just click skip right here. And then I'll do when an item or file is modified. I don't want to be notified when it's brand new. I just want to know when somebody's modifying it. Now, we noticed that when we looked at the version history, we noticed that even in the version history was not showing that it was the approval that got changed. It had that weirdness where it was just showing the last change in there. But it still is going to trigger the flow. So it's still going to let me know, it's going to trigger the flow. I'll have all the data about what was changed. So I'll just say power hour. My list is the expense tracker list. And why is it taking so long? I shouldn't have switched screens right when I was doing that. Let me do it again. There we go. Expense tracker. Okay, that's the one that I want it to trigger whenever something gets changed. And then I can do a SharePoint get changes. I think we might have even done a whole power hour about this action. It's a great one. So get changes lets me know exactly what was changed. And I just need to point to my site and my expense tracker list. And go. Come on, flow. I'm taunting it now. It's like, it's too much pressure. It can't show me all the, there we go, a list. Okay. Now, which item do I want to get to know what changed on? It's going to be just this item that was just modified. And then when you use this trigger, I like to use the trigger window start token and in the until, the trigger window end token. So it's just basically the trigger window is like the window of time, like in probably seconds, that the change was made and like being saved to SharePoint. So that's what your trigger window is. So I'm going to get the changes, and then here's what I can do. I can do an email. Say send an email. And then I want to send it to, so this is a situation where I want the approver to know that they're getting this notification in case the approver's not hanging out in Teams and they're not going to see it. So I'll just go to approvers. That's the one. And now since approvers, the field itself, the column could potentially be multiple people. Here's what's going to happen. It's going to put that in a loop. So when it puts it in a loop for each approver, it's going to send a separate email to each approver. So the problem with that is that all the approvers aren't going to see anyone else in the to box of the email. Each email is going to be individual. So what I like to do in situations like that, if I want it to just be one email with everyone in the to box, I like to create a variable. So I'll go say variable, initialize my variable, var emails, and that's a string. And then what I'm going to do is for each approver, I'm going to string together their email addresses. And I know this is not directly related to this approval concept we're talking about, but it's going to be a good one to know whenever you see these loops appear, just to kind of know why it did that and how you can get around it. So I'm going to take this and move it out of the loop. I don't want the loop. So I'm going to delete the loop. And then I'm going to say set the variable, set variable, and then which variable, the emails, I'm going to set it to, I want to do an append to string variable. So for each person, as it loops through them all, for each approver, I want them to append them to the variable. So I did the wrong action, sorry. To an append to string variable. So it's just going to be a string of email addresses. So I'm going to take, so this is as soon as I do this, this is what's going to be added to the loop. So we'll say approver's email. There we go, approver's email. And then, so the variable gets put in a loop because for each approver's email, it's going to go put that person's email address in a semicolon, and it's going to string them all together. And then when I send the email, I can just send it to that variable. And then that will be a list of email addresses. So then I'll just say approval for, and then I can just use dynamic data of whatever that item was, just the title of that item. And then here's where I have a lot of metadata around this approval that I can include in here. Please approve. Now the problem with that I've noticed is, let's go look at what we have in here. We have approvers claims, approvers display name, approvers email, approvers picture, approvers department. We have that information, but we don't have like the data of like the button that you click to do the approval. So like if you're using an approval action in a flow, it will have like the actual approval is inside the email where you just click approve in the email. This is not going to have that. This is going to have just the ability to let them know that it's there and give them a link just to the item. So I've got approvers, claims, email, picture, department. So here's some more information. Responses. So this is the response, people who respond. So responses, you can tell it's a person column because it's got claims, display name, and email. And then it's got approval creator is another person field. So claims, display name, email, picture, etc. And so that information is going to be like the extra information that you have like from like some of those columns that we were looking at. And then here's the approval status. So this is going to have, I'll just put, let's see. I want to see what the value looks like. Approval status value, and then approval status label. And then I also want to say who it was submitted by. Please approve this, submitted by, okay, and that's going to be the, this one. That's going to be the, where did it go? Not created by, hold on. Responses, approval creator, approval creator display name. And there's only one approval creator. And then approval status. And the approval status is going to say requested. So there's the value and the label. And then let's try this out. So this is approve expenses notification. So what I want to do is I only want to send this email if that specific column is the one that got changed. So I'm not going to run this yet. I want to show you, like, because I already ran it on one, I want to show you what that metadata looks like in this other one that I already ran. So we don't have to do that again. Let's see. So the metadata, when you're doing one of those get changes actions, see, all I did in this other flow was the get changes. The metadata looks like this. It's a list of basically trues and falses. And so here is column has changed right here. And then it's just a list of all the columns and a true or false, whether they've changed. So ID department, blah, 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 blah. Price, I did change that. Approval, OData approval assigned to true. And OData approval sent by true. So this is the one, the OData approval assigned to true. That's the one that I want to be notified right when that one is the one that's been changed. So I'll go ahead and let me go back to the other OData approval assigned to. So now that I know that's the data that I need to look at, I'll go ahead and put that in here and do a condition. So I get the changes and then do a condition. And then this is where I need to pick that field, the OData. Let me search for it. Assigned to, yeah, it's going to be, Approver's email, just any of those pretty much. Oh wait, let me see. Approvers, sorry. There it is. I was looking at the wrong data here. So a has column changed approvers, and that's just going to be true or false, Boolean. So I like to do an expression of true, has column changed true. You could type it also. So now it's going to let me know. So if that column is the one that just changed, then I want to do this for each and send an email. I don't want to let them know that they're having to approve something if something else on the list was changed, right? All right, so save that. And then I'll go ahead and just send this to send one to a few people. Let's see, let me refresh this. And then I'll say, I'll do this. This is new one. And I'll just say, don't require a response from all approvers. And then, so don't approve it yet, Joelle. We're just gonna watch the flow run first, because then we would need a different flow to look to see if it's been approved or rejected, with like the approval status changes to like approved or rejected. So that's another thing that we'll be able to do. Now, again, that has to be a separate flow, because this first flow is only it's triggering when the item's modified, and it's just letting the approvers know. I didn't send the link to the item in the email. I should have done that, but it's letting them know that they have this thing to approve. So let me go show you what it would look like to add that. Link. Now this link is going to be ugly. I'm not going to spend time making it like a clickable, like a hyperlink. I'll just use the link to item field here. So, but just a quick way of doing that. Oh, I have a broken connection. Let me go back. What do you mean I have a broken connection? Oh, my connection isn't working. I need to sign in. Okay, let's go do that. Connections. That's weird, because that other flow ran just like right before I started Power Hour, and it was fine. So I'll just reconnect. That was using a SharePoint connectors though, so it's a little different. Okay, so now it's reconnected. So now let's go do that again, and see if it saved my change that I made. No, it didn't. Okay, link. I'll do my link to item and save. Okay, so that one's going to work okay now, and I'll have to go kick it off again. So let's go to the one that failed, and I'll just see if I can rerun it real quick. Resubmit. So that I don't have to do that again. But yeah, I think I might have to. Yeah. Let me just go trigger it again. Oh, it succeeded. Okay, never mind. All right, so approval expenses notification. And okay, so it found that field was the one that changed. And then it sent an email. So let's go to my mail. Approval for this. And like I mentioned, I didn't make this like a pretty hyperlink. It's just a big, ugly, long, like raw HTML raw data. But it's got submitted by, and that's the person that submitted it. The approval status value is 1, and 1 apparently equals requested. So then I could do another flow that is going to be triggered also when something's modified, but we could also just say only trigger it when the approval status value is a certain thing, maybe, or yeah. So we could do that if you want like people to be notified when it gets completed, because right now, like they're getting a Teams notification, but if you want to expound upon that and have it do more, then you could do that with your flows. So do you have any questions about that? Let me see. do y'all need to see the this like this second flow that I was kind of talking about, this concept? Do you want me to go ahead and build that? But like another thing that I was going to do is to go into and show you the difference now that there's content approval, there's request sign off, and there's this new modern approval in here. Scott says, I noticed the approval status column that gets added is using some JSON code to format it. Could I put that same function on a different column if I wanted to, or that would break the approval stuff? Scott, I have tried that once, and I kind of dug in and kind of tried to break it and try to do that with the JSON. It did not work out for me, but that was a few months ago, so you could give it a shot. But I don't think that it's going to let you do that. Yeah. It ended up being kind of messy when I tried it, so I'm not going to go kind of delve into that right now. But yeah, that's a great idea. That's like one of the first things I thought of, was I just wanted to be on a different column. Now, is this going to allow external people? That's another question. So I'm going to send one to a couple of you external people, and we all can race to go approve it. So this is going to be Hawaii. Go to Hawaii, and I'll put Anita and Scott, and you have a couple of them in there, Scott, and Carolyn. Okay, and I'm not going to require from all approvers. I'm just going to say someone approve. And y'all are external. So that's what we're testing right now, is can external people get those notifications in Teams, and can external people participate in this? So let's see. Yeah, I don't think it's going to let you edit that column in my list, because I think I have like the permissions kind of locked down on it. Let me double check. Yeah, members have contribute. So since y'all all have contribute rights to this list, you're not going to be able to do anything with the JSON in it. So you'd have to create a different list, or just go try it in your tenant and see if it, give it a shot. You'll mess with my JSON? Okay. Okay, so did the external people get that one? So I think it did. I think you did. So it looks like Scott approved it. So yeah, that's good. So Scott approved it. And then let's go see if that kicked off the flow too. Yeah, 38 seconds ago. I just refreshed it. Scott beat you. Yeah, it's going to be a race, huh? Okay, so since the condition of that we added in here was not met, it didn't send any emails. So then, so this one was, the column has changed, approval assigned to, and since it equals true, since it didn't equal true, it just went down the false route and didn't do anything. Now, another thing that I could do in the same flow is false. If that column's not the one that just changed, I could add another condition in here. And yeah, I like that. See, that's exactly what I was thinking, Scott, is that I wanted to be able to create that dialog box, like create it from scratch and see if I can make my own. And that's what I like. It didn't quite work out like I was hoping. So another thing that you can do, because it's getting the changes. Now, always keep in mind that when you're triggering flows, you do have the ability to create what's called a trigger condition. And trigger conditions mean, like, in the trigger itself, you're defining if you want it to be triggered at all according to some value being some field being a certain value. So that is also an option. So you don't have to have your flow triggered every single time somebody modifies something. That is just something to keep in mind. And that's something that's in my Power Automate Advanced course, how to build those trigger conditions. And it's got a weird syntax. But another thing I can do is if it didn't just the approval didn't just get started, I could have another condition in here that looks to see if has column changed responses. So I can look to see if the responses has changed, and that's going to be the responses, as we noticed, was a people picker. So if the column change responses is equal to true, then you could have it to where it sends an email to the person that requested it and then lets them know that it was approved. So you could have that all in the same flow. So I'll say, all right, has column changed, and send an email. So again, this has built-in Teams notifications for all this stuff, but this is just an add-on if you want to be able to get into that metadata and send extra emails. Yes, you're right, Rick. Trigger conditions are great for eliminating unnecessary processing, especially if you're trying to keep it down, like keep the number of flows down and kind of really count those, because they do, at some level in your tenant, they do count against something. I've never hit like the limit of the, flows per hour or anything like that, but that does make a difference. You don't want to have every single workflow you're doing like trigger every single time everything is edited if you don't need to. Okay, so for the this other email, this is going to be the one that we can send to the person who created, so the approval creator email. And that's not going to put it in a loop because the approval creator is just always going to be a single person. And then approval status, let's see, wait. Title, say the title has been, and then we can put that, I think it was a status, approval status. So the approval status value was a number, but the label was like the pretty word. So good to know. And then you could have like approver was, and then I can put who that was. I think I didn't mean to put department there. Oh, and it put it in a loop. Hold on, let me see. Not get changes. Responses is what I want. Yeah, the responses. Now responses is going to have, it's gonna put it in a loop, because look at that, it did it twice. Hold on, let me take that out of there. Okay, get rid of these. Let me just get rid of these. I hate it when you just keep getting loops and more loops and more loops. So the key when that happens is to delete the thing that caused the loop, and then, yeah. So the problem with this is once I put the response people, who the responses people were, it's going to put the email in a loop, and then it's going to send a separate email for each responder's name and their response. So you don't want those in all. If I just click this right now, it's going to put it in a loop, but I probably don't want that. I probably would want to do the same thing I did with that other one, where I want to just append them together in a string, and then just have all the responders listed here. And that you could even just do their display name, not even their email. But since I've already showed how to do that, I'm just going to click it and just let it create a loop there. Could you use this approval to go to a manager, but have a trigger condition to intercept it if the amount exceeds a certain amount, and send it to a higher manager? I don't think I would use this out of the box approval to do that. Yes, you could do that with a flow, but I wouldn't. It's because if you did that, then the first person starting it would be using that pretty interface with the little approval pop-up, and they'd be typing who the approvers are. So they would have to manually type who their manager is. And then it would already go to the person. So it would go to the person, and then that's what would trigger the flow. So then you'd have to have the flow looking at the amount and everything after they had already sent the approval to somebody. So you could just do a different type of flow, just not one of these out of the box approvals for that, because that'll be kind of awkward. All right, now I saved that, and let's see. I'll just do one more. Maybe I'll go approve one. So this one says requested right here, the one to Hawaii. Let me refresh this and make sure it's up to date. So this one's requested from. It says it's requested from U3. But I could have sworn y'all already accepted. You already did that one. Oh, well. I'm going to go do this is a new one. And I'm going to go ahead and approve that. And then that should trigger it. Yeah. That should trigger the flow. Any minute now. That's the fun thing about triggering flows during a live demo, is it could take a few minutes. So just kind of sit here awkwardly for clicking the refresh button. Yeah. So the next thing that I'm going to show you, so I showed you when I first turned this new approval concept on, I showed you that it had the content approval setting in the list settings. Then I turned this new modern thing on, and then the content approval setting just went away, because it's like they want you to use one or the other. But I'm going to show you another kind of some other weird things that it does. Okay, so I just click to approve something. So it looks like what happened was, let's see, so this is going to require a lot more testing. So this one actually did fall under the condition of the approver being changed to true, which that's surprising. So it's sending the email saying you have something to approve. So that's not really what I wanted to happen, but it doesn't surprise me that there are going to be a lot of nuances in there with all the little trues and falses and all those little built-in fields. I haven't quite wrapped my head around what those system fields, like what kind of changes each one of them, because you would think that if you are sending it for approval, you already sent it for approval, it already changed that to true, and so it wouldn't trigger this again. So that's a weird one. So what I was kind of talking about that I want to show you is that now we have this new approval thing turned on. So if you want to turn it back off, you could go here and turn it off. But what I noticed is that this is still in here. And this is another little screen to configure out of the box approvals. So if you go click configure flows here, when you choose integrate and choose power automate and choose configure flows, this is also in here. So I could say, do you want approvals in this library? If I just turn it on, it doesn't have either one of these selected by default. So turning that on doesn't necessarily do anything. And it's going to be on by default. I think this one I was playing with. So that's going to be turned on by default. But here's what happens. Just something to watch out for is that you could set content approval here. And that's the built-in list and library content approval. Again, we've had other power hours about that and how it works, and it's in our SharePoint training online. So I turn it on there, and then it's like a hack, because now it has both. See, now it has approval status, and that is from the content approval. And the content approval setting and this new modern approval setting do not see each other, do not understand each other. So here's the test that I did, before we got started was, so when you, the idea behind content approval is that when it's turned on, as soon as you edit something, it's going to say pending. So it's going to say pending here. So then it has to be approved, and no one can even see the changes until someone approves it, which is a different concept than what this new modern approvals thing. The modern approvals, everybody that can get to the list can see everything in the list, but it just has a new button. The content approval is no one's going to even see the changes except for like people with this certain higher permission level. And then they would go approve and reject stuff. But when you approve and reject stuff with content approval, I noticed that it has no bearing on the approval status here. So I did change a field, which is what reset the approval status in the first place. But if this is pending and then this gets submitted to get approved, and then someone approves it, it is not going to change this to approved. So this approval and this approval do not talk to each other. So when I go in here and approve this, it's still going to say pending. So that's a little awkward. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because Scott did approve. So that's what somebody's saying in the chat, is that Scott did approve it, and then it still shows it as requested on here, but it shows that he approved it. So I feel it's like it hasn't refreshed yet. So that is another another oddity. Also, another weird thing you have in here is you have, when I go to this configure your flows again, and if I use this request sign off, that is a flow. So request sign off is pretty different. So let me kind of explain to you what the request sign off is going to do, and kind of so you'll understand what the difference is. So request sign off means you would click on an item. I'll just do a brand new item, brand new for sign off. And request sign off, it can be done in libraries. Okay, and then I'm gonna put the newer ones on top. Okay, so you would click on an item that you want to be signed off, and notice that this new request approval thing does have its own button in the toolbar, but you have this automate and you have request sign off here. So this is going to be, it's going to create a flow, but it's not a flow that you can see or interact with or edit. It's just a very generic flow. I'll just put Joelle as my approver. Take a look and then run flow. And then, and that one also is not connected to the content approval setting. So that's kind of why I can see why they have it so that you have to pick one or the other. You have to pick a request sign off or content approval, and whatever setting you pick doesn't stay here either. It's always like you're starting over every time you open this up. It's kind of a mess. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it is not going to be talking to each other, Courtney. The content approval shows as approved, but approval status is requested. So yeah, very odd. So this one is, I did the request sign off, and request sign off actually has its own column, sign off status. So the content approval has its own approval column, and that is, I turned that off, so it's not on here anymore. And then the sign off status has its own column. And then of course this approval status has like 4 columns. So just kind of wrap your head around that and just kind of know there, hopefully soon there will not be all these separate ones, because it's a little confusing, but at least kind of know what they are and know what they do and don't do and how to work with them, and convey that to your end users. Any last questions? Let me see. That was kind of fun. Just digging in and trying stuff out. So I'm going to go turn that other thing off. Yeah, turn this off. Don't want approvals in the library. And then let's see if I don't know if my sign off status column doesn't go away, but all those built-in approval, like content approval columns, do automatically go away when you turn off the content approval. And then as long as this thing is enabled, you're still not going to be able to get to the content approval. It's not going to be here at all. So I did that sort of little hack where I opened that other window and turned on content approval, but I don't think that they want you using both of them. That's why I think they try to like turn that off. So it's I kind of hacked into that, didn't I? Okay. Oh, the approval just updated on the Hawaii test. So yeah, there it goes. It just took a while, but yeah, external approved people can approve. All right. Well, thanks everybody for, let me switch my little view over here. Oh, back to me and Joelle here. All right, so thank everybody for coming. That was a fun little overview of the new modern content approvals in lists and the comparison between some of the other built-in out-of-the-box approvals. So thanks everybody for joining. You can go to iwmentor.com. That is our company. We do online training, and that is also, you can click schedule at the top to see when the next Power Hour is going to be. It's most Wednesdays at 11 Central. And we'll see you next time. Check out our training. Bye.